Hey guys, welcome back to Results Junkies podcast. Paul and I were just talking in pre-show about how we're not going to China anytime soon, and we'll get into that in just a second. We're also having a conversation about Anthropic throttling users on their Max plan. And if we get a little bit of time, we're going to talk about an interesting situation with Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, and a company that OpenAI decided not to acquire. Mr. Singh, how are you?
I'm disappointed that you did not take me on your trip to Sardinia,
I'm not disappointed by that.
but it was fun watching that on Instagram. I'm good. Summers look a little bit different for us. Our kids are growing up, and
Yeah.
two of them are in camps, and one of them doesn't want to this year, and the other one is non-committal, which I guess she's got feelings. So I guess we're navigating this new summer. It is the part of the year where I'm glad my office is in the basement. I can hide for a couple hours.
Well, I have
Uh,
feelings too, just like her. So,
yeah.
and I would say like the only way I would have taken you to Sardinia was if you were going to pay because it is a wickedly expensive place. At one point during the trip, my cousin asked, hey, how much are because we stayed at a fairly not nice place, and it was still 350, $400 a night for a room. And she's like, well, give me a perspective when you say these properties are expensive. Like, what are you talking about? And so I pulled up a random hotel and I looked at August of this year, so a month or so from now, and it was €4,000 a night.
What?
Then I looked for the shoulder season, and it was in the shoulder season, late October, early November. It was still over €1,000 a night. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. I don't even know what to say to that. Maybe is it like all the Europeans coming down or something like that?
yeah. Starting, I mean, I do think there's something of a White Lotus effect. I haven't watched the show,
Ah,
that was part of the craze there. But it's all the Europeans, sorry, all the Italians go to Sardinia to vacation, and then you have all the jet setters. Not just the White Lotus crowd. There was a jet setter crowd before that. I thought it was
yeah.
interesting when we took off after we took off from Sardinia headed to Rome. The private jet terminal at Sardinia, at Olbia Airport in northeastern Sardinia, sort of looked like Las Vegas's Harry Reid during CES week, just like row
Hmm.
after row after row of private jet. So
Well, somewhat related, I guess, on the timings while you were there. I think there was, for anybody that follows F1, there was a bunch of rumors that Max Verstappen and Toto from Mercedes F1 happened to spend some time together in Sardinia. So that would be and of course they're all denying it, right? But it all kind of happened while you were there. So maybe who knows? Maybe you dined a few tables away from.
that could be. I don't think they were staying at my hotel.
Yeah,
Could
that's
almost
right.
swear it. I would say like
Yeah.
the best I could
Sure.
say about the hotel we stayed at is that if you're a Marriott loyalist and you stay there, you definitely suffer from Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like it. Well,
All
I
right.
will. I'm sad to admit this to you because I know I'll hear about it forever. When you said you were going to Sardinia, I actually had to Google it because I kind of knew it was over there somewhere.
It is over there somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that is exact. I think that is the exact latitude and longitude of it. It's over there
that's
somewhere.
right. Yes, that's right. You just tell the pilot, just you head on over there somewhere, and
Yeah. All right. A little bit of
I don't even know why
housekeeping.
people listen to us.
Little bit of housekeeping. Show at resultsjunkies.com. He is at Paul Saying on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. So let's talk about this TechCrunch article in regards to Chinese authorities installing malware on people's phones. I can't say I'm surprised by the story, but this is what led to us talking about not going to China anytime soon. Effectively, if a Chinese authority grabs your phone, they're installing software on the phone that allows them to continue to pull data off the phone after the fact. I've always had this fear of somebody from the government wanting to get into my phone just in general. Maybe not quite like irrational tinfoil hat fear, but this is I think what's interesting about it is that this is a Chinese based company that was able to build the hacking tool where they don't even really need access to your device. They can just hack through the encryption. That's probably the scarier part because I think one of the reasons why I carry an iPhone is because of how secure I believe the device is if somebody doesn't have my face.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. This is a topic where I think there's like two parts to it that I tend to think about. The first is certainly individual privacy. I think here obviously we have at least some semblance of due process and things like that. But there's that privacy angle that's important, and then the other angle that I think a lot more often about these days is just how many other accounts you have access to via the same device. And a good example of that would be, the bad joke I was telling you about earlier, where it's like years ago, and you made the comment that everybody's going to learn this somehow. I wired $60,000 to a vendor, only to find out that that was not the vendor.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I always wonder, like maybe it changed the way I thought about all transactions going forward, whether it was like my Coinbase account, whether it was my corporate accounts, anything else, where it's like, it, you know, anytime I do something, it's got to get authenticated by somebody else, whether it's Dana individually for personal stuff or another employee on my team for other stuff. And it's so anyway, I think about privacy and I think about verification or authentication. And so that's when I think about these things, I guess I've always assumed recently, anyways, more recently in the recent years, is that like this stuff's already happening. We're probably just now reading about it now on TechCrunch or whatever, but it's probably been happening for quite a while. But it's such a different world. I mean, when we were talking in pre-show, you brought up the point of like paper checks. Like it used to just be that I would sign it and I would hand it to you, and now I know that you have it. Like
Yeah.
that's overly simplistic, but that was it, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
but
No,
actually, yeah,
yeah,
but now,
I learned my
but
lesson the hard way on paper checks. With employees who would take the checks to, and one employee took it to his mom's real estate office and just ripped the routing and account number off the bottom of the check and just debited our account. So that was pre-COVID, but that was also the last time that we had physical checks for any of our businesses.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't have any. I was doing something the other day that required to have a check, and I was like, yeah, we're not doing this if you're firm on that, we're not doing this. And I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was. It was something to do with like we were like setting up like some new payroll system or something like that. And they were like, we need a physical check. And like, I will scuttle this whole deal if you need a paper check, because I don't have one and I am not going to go order one.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's amazing how like it's really probably only the last 5 years that that's really become an anomaly because I can remember setting up payroll accounts within the last 10 years where you still were paper checking or you were issuing checks out of your own bank account. I mean, we've moved probably pre-COVID at this point, but 5 years ago where we don't even draft payroll checks out of our accounts anymore. We just wire the entire money to the payroll company and they're responsible for the checks,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
which,
Yep.
which helps with a lot of things, stale
Yeah.
checks, all that stuff. But at any rate, I
Yeah.
think the base case here is that, and I don't want to like try to weave into the third rail of politics here, but is it based on where we sit today and the fact that China is doing this in a fairly blatant way? I guess I just wonder how far away we are from other countries deciding to adopt some level of this on entering the country and just saying, look, if you want to come in, we want to see stuff. There's already been some rumors of that coming into the U.S. for people who are coming in under certain visa types. So
I remember years ago, like what do you call it? Years ago when we were traveling for one of my other companies, it was the rule was that you didn't take like we would issue a separate new device to you for that trip, and you would be told to leave everything else behind.
yeah,
Um, and I remember back then thinking, it's just it's paranoia, but then you start to see stories like this, and you're like, okay, all
yeah,
right. Actually, my neighbor. Now that I think about this makes a lot of sense. My neighbor has gone off to India for a month with his
hmm
entire family, and now that I didn't remember this until you just said this, like 2 days ago, he came over to the front door. He's like, "Hey, if anything happens, well, you need to get in touch with me. Here's my new number," and it was a U.S. 10-digit number. He's
hmm
like, "Yeah, this is my number while I'm gone for a month. If you need anything, you let me know, and everything else is good with the house." Blah blah blah. And I just in passing, I was like, why don't you take your phone? He goes, you take your like personal stuff with you? And at the time I was like, what an idiot.
yeah.
And now I'm thinking, oh man, maybe he's onto something. I'll have to
uh,
ask him in 28 days. We'll
yeah,
see.
if he comes back, if he connects in China,
Yeah, that's right.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, if he comes back. Yeah, I should probably just text him inappropriate things right now and just see if he can make it back through the border checkpoint.
Yeah, I think I would just like a text from all the controversial sites, like pick some right wing stuff, some left wing stuff, throw in some Al Jazeera, just like mix it all in there and just see
Yeah.
see what's the thing that trips him up.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
this is totally random, but now I have to tell you the story because what the hell? I'm going to tell you. My 2-year-old has taken, so Grant is 2, learning to talk. This kid, for whatever reason, loves timers. Like literally timers, right? Not just any timers. This kid has figured out how to take his older brother's iPad, find YouTube, and he specifically searches for bomb timers. I am on a list now somewhere
Yeah,
because
yeah,
this kid
yeah.
just watches a countdown timer and a little bomb that explodes on YouTube. And now he runs around. We were at the store the other day and he's like, I want a bomb. I want a bomb. And I'm like, you can't, you gotta stop, man. You gotta stop.
Don't take this kid on an airplane anytime soon. It will not end well
I
for you.
well, so it happened. We were flying down to Orlando a couple weeks ago, and the lady's like, not the lady, the stewardess comes over, like, "Oh, you're so cute, whatever, right?" And he goes, "I have a bomb. I want a bomb." And she goes, "Did he say what I said? I think he said." And I was like, "It's this video."
Yeah, yeah. Please don't take us to the little room in the back. Let's talk about Anthropic. We've heard bits and pieces of reports like this in the past, but I think it was based on more of the $20 a month plans that are popular for all the various services, OpenAI, Perplexity, Anthropic, Claude, et cetera, et cetera. Reports here of caps on Claude Code, which is their new $200 a month max plan. And these are popping up in messages that sort of look like rate limiters. So it's, like, hey, you've exceeded the number of requests, come back in 30 minutes sort of thing. I think the base question for me here is, is it, given that we're at the infancy of these sorts of level of products and these are, effectively still startups and early stage startups, is it fine that they're making these sorts of like changes to what people think they're getting in these monthly plans this quickly? Is this, because again, these are early stage companies, or should they really be more fully baked now, in your opinion?
There's two sides to this. There's the customer expectation and then the operator's dilemma. So the customer's
Hmm.
expectation is always going to be, hey, I pay for this, so I should be able to use it within the limitations of what I paid for, right? Whatever plan I'm on, I should be able to pay
Right.
for it. But then I think what's happening here is what I tend to call sort of the operator's dilemma. Back in the data center world, we sort of think about it as like the 95th percentile usage. So, like you don't want to have like excess capacity. That's just not a good use of your capital, right? And so the
Right.
interesting thing here is that I know I'm a data point of one, but I suspect it's kind of the same way you use AI tools as well, in the sense that because these are sort of conversational tools, you're not asking one question and then saying thank you for the info and going off. I mean, maybe you are if you're like, hey, what's the best food in open right now? I know that for my own usage,
Right.
it tends to it's like a couple like quick questions, like what's the conversion rate between this and that or whatever, right? That's just a one and done. But then like even this morning, it's like uh, here is a report. Summarize this for me. I'll go back and forth with the thing a lot, really, really quickly over the course of 10, 20, 30 minutes. And I wonder if that's what's actually happening here. So
Mm.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, by the way. I know that that's probably what people want, but
Yeah.
I think we're still such in an early stage of the these AI tools that it's not yet clear what the capacity really needs to be. Which, by the way, brings up a separate but interesting point we can talk about later on, is that the new data centers that Facebook is proposing, I think I saw a map overlay. There was a map overlay of Manhattan overlaying the physical size of these proposed data centers that Facebook is working on, and it's just about the size of Manhattan. It just goes to show you just how much infrastructure is going into this now. But anyway, I've noticed this on my own side though. Like the other day, I was just like pounding on ChatGPT the other day to just knock something out. It was like this spreadsheet. I was trying to figure out how to do this particular pivot, and I couldn't figure it out. And within it, I'd noticed that every once in a while, some of the requests would come back real fast. Other times, I'd just see that little like blinking dot, like it was just taking time. And as a consumer, it's horribly frustrating. But having been an operator of data centers, for example, I get it. It's like they're probably trying to throttle individuals because others are also pounding on it at the same time. So that was probably a non-answer to most people, but I think this is, maybe I'll just summarize it by this. Like most of us in 2025 have never experienced a time where we were unable to complete a call. I, I'm Right. Regardless of however many people were around us, like that's a pretty well solved problem now by the telecoms. Even even like your home internet, at least for most places in the US, I should say nowadays, maybe not all, like you're not buffering very often anymore. The way that the systems are built for quality of
Right.
service and traffic management and things like that, like it's all pretty much a known problem. I suspect it'll be another 3, 4, 5 years before they figure out how to really do this on the AI side. But what do I know? I maybe it's a whole different beast, having these things, these millions of GPUs in a data center. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the way I think about this, I mean, there obviously has to be some effective limit to these things because if not, you could have one company running for 200 employees on a $200 a month account. Like there has to be some level of rate limiting on this. I think if I were a startup in these ecosystems now, I think I would err on the side of not rate limiting people. And I think it goes back to something that you said early on. And I'll be clear, I'm not here yet with these models, but I think your point has merit in that people are going to get used to feeding a certain model. And that model is going to know things about their work. It's going to have access to previous reports. And so it's going to be frictionless to go to that model and ask it the next question because it has your database of information. Whereas going to a new model and starting over and saying, let me tell you everything I've told you so far about our quarterly report so you can process the next one. In that essence, I think I would be at a $20 a month level. I think that's really a very entry level customer. For a $200 a month customer, I think I would be trying very hard not to rate limit them because I think I would want those people to be really sticky. And I wouldn't want to give them a reason to have a second subscription yet. Again, this is absent all the economics of AI. It's more when I think about customer acquisition for a startup, I think I want to take whoever my highest paying customer is and I want to reduce
I don't
friction.
disagree with you. I think, I mean, look, there's always a chance that these slowdowns or these delays are just, some sort of ineptitude or something like that. But it is certainly
Right.
possible that that's what's happening, that somebody or some part of the code is just kind of rate limiting accidentally or, whatever. That's certainly possible.
Right.
I think the difficult part with this is that this type of compute, like I don't think anybody would disagree with you, right? Hey, the accounts that pay more should have access first. I don't think anybody would disagree with you, right? I think the
Right.
difficult part is that a lot of the infrastructure required to do these things, or to add the capacity needed to do that, does not come online overnight. Now, I
Sure.
guess you could
Yeah.
argue that maybe you could augment with existing clouds like AWS that offer these services. Maybe, but I think for the services that you're talking about or that you're suggesting, whether it's like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever you're using, any of these like these kind of services, they're not utilizing those third parties. That they've actually got to stand up their own data centers, and that unfortunately takes time.
Yeah.
But again, I think conceptually nobody would disagree with you. If you want to make the product sticky, you got to make it accessible for everybody and fast and responsive and all these things. Nobody disagrees with that. But
Well, and especially for the people that are paying the most, your super subscribers. Like those are the
yeah,
people I would think that are also typically
yeah,
evangelizing the product as well. If everybody's paying $20 a
yeah.
month and you're paying 200, you're likely a big fan of the product if you're a normal user. If you're trying to flaunt, flood the system and get an advantage,
I mean,
whatever. Like that is what it is.
okay, so this is a side topic, but just somewhat related, just to give you a sense
Mhm.
of how difficult this is nowadays. Running data centers is not as simple as it used to be. Like you and I, anybody that's listened to the show for a while, you know that you and I live like within 5-10 miles of each other, right? So kind of where I live, and all the data centers that are around, and my first
Yep.
business is data centers out here, right? Neighborhoods are starting to complain about them. Like
Sure. Yeah.
we've had to invest in covering up the buildings. We've had to do paint to like I think we like contracted a bunch of ex-Imagineers to try to figure out how to like camouflage buildings now. I mean, like the big stink right now in our area is that, because of the heat waves here, the power grids have asked us to at least, and it's not just us, but every data center has been asked to go online with their generators. Well, those generators are not quiet. And if you open up Nextdoor right
Right.
now, everybody's
Right.
complaining. So what this means is like this is just one example of the kind of issues these kinds of companies are facing. Because if you're ChatGPT nobody, or sorry, if you're OpenAI or Facebook or whoever, I don't think anybody's disagreeing that you know these AI tools should be fast and responsive and answer everybody quickly. I don't think there's any complaint about that or disagreement with that. Um, I think it really just comes down to
Right.
like where in the world are we going to put these things, because they also have to be reasonably close to you. So
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for any of these companies. I'm not an investor in any of these companies, at least not directly
No.
that I know about. I just I do kind of recognize that it's one of those things where it's like when we're talking about software, well, we can all deploy software in minutes. It's so fast, right? But you want to stand up like more capacity that requires physical hardware. Well, now you're talking about trains and planes and boats and cranes and concrete trucks and county
Yeah.
supervisors that have to approve it, and state legislatures that might have to approve certain parts of the deal. EPA. I mean, Lord knows, I didn't know much about water, but
Yeah.
turns out you gotta like make sure that you're not like messing up a stream. I don't mean that in any flippant way. Don't come after me,
Yeah.
anybody. These are things like you just think, oh, just stand it up, no big deal. Or walls, put some power in there, get some GPUs. You're good, man. Let's go to Best Buy and figure it out. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's try and squeeze in a quick overview on this last topic. We might have to come back to this one if we run out of time, but I just thought this was really interesting. There are little layers here for startups and founders to consider. So this is a tale of a company called Windsurf, and the pieces here are OpenAI had opened up a conversation with Windsurf to acquire them, and they had actually come to an agreement to buy Windsurf. And so it was interesting, or like what happened next. They backed out of that agreement, apparently, according to news reports, because Microsoft, which is OpenAI's largest investor, wouldn't waive their ability, Microsoft's ability to have all the information from Windsurf. They apparently have very preferential conditions in their investor agreement with OpenAI. So OpenAI literally decided we don't want to give Microsoft this advantage, so we won't acquire Windsurf. And shortly after they backed away, Google pounced, did a partial acqui-hire where they hired the CEO, some of the employees, locked up the data, and then left some of the employees behind. So oddly here, it's like OpenAI is helping make Google stronger based on the weaknesses of their agreement with Microsoft. It's just a very tangled
I
web.
mean, it's not surprising though. Whether you have whenever you first of all, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, I think, in different ways over the years. First of all, once you kind of get onto that treadmill when you're raising money or whatever, like you're entering into a long-term agreement with these people, and you're giving them some amount of rights. And so it
Yeah.
just underscores the importance of like picking your partners wisely, because like I mean, like in the venture capital world, we sort of call this like look through, for example. Like the most similar thing would be something we call look through, where you might have,
Hmm.
let's say you have a corporate investor that comes into the fund, and let's just make this up. Let's just say you've got a fund, it's $30 million, $50 million. And let's say a corporation, pick any corporation in your mind, is like, yeah, I want to put 5 million in. Well, if if you don't carefully structure that deal right, then what happens is that by default, all of your limited partners, including this one, would have access, or what we call look through, into any reports or information that you get from the companies. Well,
Yeah.
if you're not careful, then technically any company, any potential investment you make where they either consider that corporate entity a competitor or a possible acquirer or something like that, they're not going to let you into the deal because they don't want that look through unless you can prove in your closing documents that you have blocked that. And that's not uncommon, by the way, where you might have a limited partner that agrees that they are going to be receiving blacked out reports on certain deals, right? Um,
Sure.
so all I'm saying is that what we're seeing here from this whole like kind of mess with OpenAI and Microsoft and all this stuff, it's not surprising because, as I recall, Microsoft hasn't invested, like, they're not talking tens of millions of dollars. I think isn't it in the billions? I think so yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, you invest billions of dollars to help OpenAI, one of your portfolio companies, kind of dominate the market. Then the company wants to go do something and say to you like, hey, by the way, you can't see this. Like, well, no. Let's, like, I get it. So, but for founders listening to this, I don't think I don't think executives from OpenAI are listening to this podcast, right? It's probably more like startup founders and things like that. So I think it just, here's the thing. When you're raising money, obviously you kind of got to do whatever you got to do. I get that. But at the same time, it's really important to understand that if you're not careful, things like this can happen, right? So you just got to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think there's, yeah, I would say this to me feels like, and I might get this wrong, this feels like the classic quote unquote prisoner's dilemma where, by not waiving whatever right Microsoft had here, travel in the brain, whatever, by not waiving that right, Microsoft is giving one of its own competitors, Google, an advantage. It's not just hurting OpenAI. So it's interesting to some degree that they felt more strongly, at least from what we've read, they felt more strongly about not helping OpenAI get stronger and hoping they could beat OpenAI further down the road, with the understanding that Google or Amazon or somebody else was likely to step in and want to try to acquire Windsurf. And so that's the traditional prisoner's dilemma of, maybe we work together for the least worst outcome instead of working separately and we both lose. And I think in this instance, it seems like they both work separately and both lost.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I find really fascinating about this is that OpenAI sort of stripped so once the deal got blocked, from what I understand in this article, once Microsoft blocked the acquisition, OpenAI strips the company of what it thinks is probably the most valuable, and yet whatever's left is still super valuable enough for Google to go after it. That seems like
no, other way around. Google stripped Windsurf of key employees, and then somebody else is still going to come in and buy.
This sort of like drama feels like soap operas in the 80s. Like, it's like, and then they like that person and this person liked that person, but then that person didn't like this person. It's like, okay, all right, daytime TV. I hope somebody with a a videography background should make that. It'd be like the new version of Silicon Valley. It's like the Silicon Valley reboot would be really good.
All right, so I'm gonna close with a trivia question. Do you know why they were called soap operas?
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know this either. I don't remember where I found this out. The laundry soap companies of that era were the main sponsors for the shows because they knew women were the people at home, and so it was, Days of Our Lives sponsored by, I don't know if it was Tide back then or whatever, but they called them soap operas because they heavily featured commercials for soap because the target audience was the housewife.
Oh man, it's an interesting. I want to know what other trivia you know.
I mean, lots, but at least 30% of it probably isn't appropriate for the audience.
Still around? I don't even know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a very good question. One that I am ill prepared.
Okay, so I found some trivia you don't know yet.
on many levels. Yeah. I'm gonna go with yes because I'm sure there's somebody out there that sponsors them. Whether they run live or they're as passionate as they have rabid fans like they were before, I can't answer that.
I love it. All right, man.
All right, well, I think that's a good place to pin it. You got any travel going on this week?
I think by the time this episode airs, I'll be coming back from Nashville. We got a board meeting, a quarterly board meeting down there. That should be it. And then we're doing Hilton Head Island for last vacation of the summer before the kids go back to school late next month. Not Sardinia, but I'll take it. How about you?
Yep, I've got a Vegas on the realm. I'm gonna run over to California for a quick trip amidst that, and then likely we'll loop back and be back in Vegas again in a couple weeks as we lead up to the grand opening for our massive location on the Strip. And you'll definitely have an invitation in the mail, Mr. Singh, in the mail, along with the check. The check is in the mail, Mr. Kerr, Mr. Singh. It's been we've missed you for the last few weeks, but it's good to have you back.
Hey, man. Well, I will talk to you in a little bit then. Safe travels. Sounds like you're all over the place.